Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the NeuroAnimation Grow Your Brain podcast. I'm your host, Maddie Niebank, a NeuroAnimation graduate as well as a stroke survivor, and today I'm super excited to be joined by two amazing people. I have a fellow NeuroAnimation graduate, Liam, sitting here with me today, and his mother, who is an RN and caregiver as well, Beth. Thank you, Beth and Liam, for joining me here today.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so I know there's so much that we could cover on this topic, so let's just dive right in. So Liam had an anoxic brain injury, but what was he like before?
So Liam was a crazily active 21-year-old, and he was writing his own music. He was working at Care After School in Worthington Schools. He was a rec leader there, and he'd been doing that for about 3 years. He was also a full-time student at OSU Newark, for a while, and he was majoring in, I think it was environmental science back then, but his love has always been aquatic science, aquatic biology.
Wow.
He's also a huge fan of animation, and he had been a little bit pursuing kind of animation and drawing and that kind of thing, but also music. He has recorded, there's a YouTube video out there that his brother Ben filmed, and he also has like a SoundCloud site with a bunch of songs.
So Liam has always liked making music.
Oh, yeah, he's very musical as well.
Great.
And he uses a Toby right now to be able to talk. One of his disabilities is he lost his speech. He has, he's intellectually intact, which is strange and rare, and we're very happy about that. And he has command of language. He can write college-level papers, for example, but he cannot speak, the motor ability to speak. So he uses the Toby device. He types into it, and it talks for him, kind of like Stephen Hawking.
That's so cool.
Sound loud.
Beth, you and Liam had shown me some of the music that he has done before his injury, and it's really, really amazing. I think it's super cool. And I'm someone who's also quite musical, and I've before my own injury, I had a stroke. I was a singer, and I played piano, and now I can't do either of those things. But I feel like never say never, and it's something that when I have time, I'll work on getting back to singing.
I think especially with NeuroAnimation, there's kind of like new hope for restoration of old abilities, which is
definitely
a huge, huge thing.
And I know that that's something that you guys have been seeing with Liam since he started the program, and I want to talk about that. But first, I would love to ask, maybe if we could go back to the day of Liam's injury, if you could walk us through what happened.
So he was with one of his coworkers at Care After, Sloan. Her name's Sloan. She and her parents were moving to California. Sloan was going to go to San Diego State. They were moving over the summer. They sold their house in Worthington, and they were going to move. And they had invited Liam to come out and stay with them. Mm-hmm. So it was like the weekend after they had moved. And then Sloan had decided, I guess, in the 11th hour that it wasn't a good time for Liam to come out. And he had a lot of hopes and dreams with moving to California and going to school out there or finding a job or whatever. And so that fell through. And it was a huge thing for him. And also she kind of broke up with him. I'm a nurse, but I worked in information technology. So I was working from home with the pandemic. And I just had a weird feeling to go check on him because it was just weird because he was 21 and very independent. He had his own car. And I went and checked on him and found him face down, like on a pillow in his room. And he was basically blue, not breathing, no pulse. So I threw him on the floor and started CPR. And I yelled down to Ben to call 911, which he did, and it took him about 20 minutes to get there. So I did CPR for 20 minutes. He wasn't, it wasn't working. He wasn't waking up. We were also administering Narcan because he had gotten a hold of something the summer before and had overdosed on something. So he did 4 doses of Narcan. It didn't wake him up. So I honestly felt like, he wasn't going to make it because CPR at home for 20 minutes, Narcan not helping, the odds are against you for sure.
And this was at you were at home.
Yeah.
You both were at home.
So the ambulance came and took him in, and I guess long story short is that he had taken what he thought was a Percocet, and it actually had fentanyl in it. So it was like a fentanyl poisoning. The emergency room staff really didn't have much good things to say. They thought that he was brain dead, pretty much, initially. But later on that night, his color kind of changed from white to like normal. His color came back, and something just told me that he was going to be okay. This was like 10 o'clock at night. The neurologist came in and assessed him, and he was able to like squeeze his hand in response and turn his head toward my voice. And the neurologist was like, yeah, I think he's okay.
So after, being in the hospital, waking up after this incident has happened, like what was that like for both of you?
It was just a crazy time. He went to the ICU that night, and they had him extubated and off the ventilator that morning. He was never in a coma. He was definitely, the labs proved that he was 100% in a cardiac arrest. When I first came in, so it was during the pandemic, so you could only be there visiting from
Right, you can't be there all the
2
time.
p.m. until 7 p.m. every day. So every day that was what I would do. I would work from home for a half a day and then go in and do what I could when he was there. But he was actually in the James, which is the cancer hospital for OSU, because they didn't have any beds in the beginning. And then they don't like to discharge readmit, so that's where he stayed, and it was not a good fit for him. And but he ended up getting moved to Dodd, which is our rehab hospital, and he was there for about 3 weeks. And he was doing speech and OT and PT, and he was doing pretty good. He was getting around okay and not talking well. There was one night that he was talking.
So he had to do like physical. You mentioned how Liam lost his speech, and so working on that, obviously, but also physical gains he was looking to make as well.
Yeah, PT.
I was temporarily blind.
Yeah, and he also couldn't see in the beginning, and that came back pretty quick. So I kept thinking everything's just going to come back and he's going to be fine. And but long term, things really kind of got worse as time went on instead of better. And he would get to a point of just sort of needing help with everything, feeding, bathing, toileting, getting out of the chair, walking across the room. So he kind of deteriorated, and he does deteriorate if you just let him, basically. So spasticity is one of his big issues from the anoxic brain injury, and both of his hands are affected by that, and they've gotten more and more disabled over the 6 years. So that's one of the worst things, because that makes him, unable to feed himself, unable to brush his teeth and do much of anything on his own.
And you are his full-time caregiver?
Me, and we have helpers from a home care agency, like on and off. But right now we're getting a couple of really good people, so we're excited. It's a good time with that too. But, the better that Liam's doing, the easier it is to take care of. He's not so miserable. He has a lot of pain in his left hand, especially with the spasticity, that makes him kind of very miserable and unhappy. And because he can't talk, it'll just be like whining, and it's not fun to be around. But that has much improved. A lot of things have improved with NeuroAnimation, more than any other therapies.
When this happened, what were the initial things that you guys tried in terms of therapy to help with the speech and the physical?
Oh, he's done everything. We went back to OSU outpatient and said, hey, he's starting to talk now, and can we work with him again outpatient? And they just said, no, we're done. We closed that book. We're not pursuing speech anymore. He can use his Toby. So crazy. That it wasn't an option anymore. And that's what we found. Like, speech therapists will only work with somebody for so long, and they just give up. Caden at NeuroAnimation has taken that on, and they are actually making progress. And it's starting to show at home with encouragement too. Things are starting to be more automatic, because in addition to speech, he has like delayed swallowing when he's drinking a drink or something like that. And things like that are becoming more automatic again with NeuroAnimation, which I feel like shows huge healing happening.
So how long, because since the injury happened, and Liam, your injury happened about 6 years ago, when did you start with NeuroAnimation?
It was October.
October of this past year.
Yeah, I found out about NeuroAnimation. I was looking at assisted living places for my mom, who is 85 and starting to have signs of dementia and things like that. And I was starting to kind of shop around, and I went to the Avalon that's near where we are in Lewis Center. And then I was kind of like on their list of contacts, and they said that there's going to be a NeuroAnimation presentation. And I was like, what's that? That sounds interesting. And I kind of started looking on YouTube and stuff, and I was like, this is very interesting. And then I saw the presentation. Dr. Omar was there. And I just thought, this is like custom-made therapy for Liam. It's sea creatures. It's animation.
It's fun games.
It's stuff that I know he can do. He plays Pokemon Go on his phone all day long. And I just felt like... And they haven't done a lot of science around anoxic brain injury yet. But I talked to Dr. Omar about it that night. He was like, we got to try it. We got to do this. And we're really glad because he has made a lot of progress, and it does open the door for those patients.
So what were the initial goals coming into NeuroAnimation that Liam had and that you had for him? So what were the initial goals, and then what types of gains have you seen since October?
I think the first thing was balance was a big deal at the time. You were just falling down all the time and needed so much help and assistance just getting around. Balance was like the number one thing. And then it was his hands, having better use with his hands. And
you said it's your left hand, Liam?
Both hands are affected.
Both, okay.
So if you try to, this hand used to be completely normal even after the injury. This has been from the years of spasticity.
Now it's got spasticity, yeah.
So you can see this has to be surgically corrected on these fingers now. From the spasticity not being treated correctly or well. NeuroAnimation has helped with spasticity. When he leaves a NeuroAnimation session, he's just beaming. His motivation is 100%, and he's happy, and he feels better, and he can move around, and he's just more independent. He's doing things more on his own, just like automatically.
Yeah, I feel like, I can speak for myself too. One of the biggest benefits from doing NeuroAnimation is my mood is so elevated after after I complete the session. It's so fun, and I feel like I'm working actually on tasks and things that are important to my own personal life that will help me get back to where I want to be. So I definitely can relate to that.
What about Liam? What do you think?
Speech.
So
speech is your biggest goal?
So for me, speech was kind of pie in the sky, and it wasn't even necessarily on my list. But they just started working on it, and I was like, okay, let's put it on there.
So I heard, and it was your coach, Liam, Caden, told me that you spoke some of your first words doing NeuroAnimation. What was that like, and how is that going?
It was exhilarating.
And I think, was it you, Beth, who was saying that now he has 40 words, or he's spoken quite a few words now?
I think that was this week. They got up to 40.
That's crazy. There's no limit, right?
It's not even like certain sounds or anything. Like he can say octopus and just any
Kana,
random
the
word.
octopus. Yes.
Any random word they throw out there. So
100 plus at the moment.
Oh my goodness.
100. I didn't even know.
Wait, that's crazy.
Sometimes caregivers take him, so I miss out on everything.
How do you like doing NeuroAnimation?
The game for sure.
He's just always been such a fan of, he started fishing when he was 2 up in Wisconsin at the family cabin. And he was always a huge fisherman. Like he caught a muskie and stuff. 2 muskies.
And you like to play games, right? I think you had mentioned to me, Liam. So one of the coolest things about it is definitely being immersed in the theater, like you said, and being able to control these sea creatures and stuff. It's very fun. Do you like the coaches?
Caden especially.
I'm glad to hear that you're really enjoying it. And since you've been here since October, you mentioned to me. So you've been doing the NeuroAnimation program a long time, and you're still continuing to gain more words and do more, right?
Correct.
All right, so Mom and Liam, what kinds of goals do you have moving forward? So encouraging to see all the progress that Liam has been able to make since he started at NeuroAnimation. So what's next?
Just having the motivation is new for him. And the sense of wanting the independence These are all new things, and that's huge for his
I
progress.
want to be able to speak out of context.
That's a good one. Yes, that's certainly something to keep working
And right now,
towards.
there's kind of a lot of work with warming up and
to be able to get
and
to the
having
point that you
Caden
can.
sort of there saying what to do, and I'm trying to do some of that. And we had dinner with my mom last night at a restaurant, and we got him to say a couple things at the restaurant.
That's huge, Liam. That's so incredible. And I hope that I really hope you realize how significant and amazing it is that you're able to start using more words and saying things and just engaging and getting a lot out of life.
And more self-care. Sometimes after NeuroAnimation, we go to, he loves to go to Carrabba's. Is that how you say it? And he always
Nice.
orders the salmon.
I like that restaurant too.
And he gets the salmon, and he sits there and he gets a cocktail, and he sits there and feeds himself the entire meal and drinks the cocktail without a straw.
You pick it up and drink. Wow.
Yeah, it's especially after NeuroAnimation, he just seems to have that ability to be able to do everything on his own, and that's what we're striving for.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Beth, for joining me today. This has been a great conversation, and I know a lot of people will enjoy listening to it.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks for
you.
having us. Fist bump.
Thank you. Fist bump, Liam.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, keep going. Good, finish it.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the NeuroAnimation Grow Your Brain podcast. I'm your host, Maddie Nevank. See you next time.